What's going on, guys? It's Trenton from Trent's Tuning, back here making a highly requested video for SCT Advantage, how to do MAF tuning on SCT Advantage. Highly requested video for you guys. So if you got a truck with doing your own tuning using SCT Advantage software from an SCT device, and you got a map sensor, as you know, your map sensor controls basically everything. I mean, if your map sensor MAF transfer function isn't dialed in, load will be off, fueling will be off, spark will be off, everything will be off. If this isn't dialed in correctly, you're never gonna get it. Most of the time, you're not even gonna be able to get it started. So, right off the bat, though, the first things you're gonna need is obviously a Windows-based computer with your SCT Advantage software, and then you also need Live Link Gen 2. And I'll include links to those in the description with also the SCT device updater. And then other than that, you're obviously going to need your SCT device. I'm using an X4 today. And then you're also going to need a wideband. I would recommend getting a high quality wideband so you can switch through from, true Lambda, gas, with gas storage, and then E85 mode, depending on what you're doing. Just makes it easier. If you're not, it's fine. I'll explain that later. But you'll need a wideband. And then the big thing is you'll need the SCT analog output wire. And this just wires in to an output of your wideband and then plugs into the other plug on your SCT device. So if you have all that, you're good to go. So now I'm going to switch into here, go and get into the tuning side of things. We'll start with setting up the base tune that you'll actually need the flash to the truck first. And then we'll get that set up, flash to the truck, and then we'll go from there with data logging and everything. All right, so I'm back inside because up here in northern Michigan, it's still cold as shit. But as you can see here on the computer, I'm going to open up the Advantage software, and you're going to want to enter in your strategy if you haven't already done that and made and saved a base tune. But open up your strategy, open up your file, open up your tune, and then once you're in here, the first thing we're going to do if you're going to start touching your map transfer function at all, the very first thing you need to do is go up here to adaptive learning, click on the scalar, and you'll see this adaptive control switch. Now, I'm opened up my tune for that truck, which is, I'm on like my 130th revision, so I have a lot done on here, so it's already turned off. So normally this will be a 1. Just go in here, turn that to a 0, turns that off. And then the other thing you're going to want to do is go down here to open dash closed loop, and you're going to click on go to fuel open. You might, now depending on your strategy, it might be a little different. So I'm trying to think in my head ways to explain this to you guys. I've never really made a tutorial video like this. Depending on what you're working on, it's going to be a little different. If you're working on an 04 to 08 F-150, it's going to be the exact same what you're looking at. But the names of the tables and the logic of how I'm changing it around the table will be the same. It's just you might not have the table. It might be named a little different. Just look at the description, look at the name, you'll have it. But you're going to want to go to your fuel open loop table, and you might also have some tables in here that's like fuel open loop for decel, fuel open loop by load. Sometimes there's 2 tables in there that are by load, and it's like it has to be if it's at or below this volumetric efficiency load, it will go into open loop. So therefore set that to all 1s. Because for this one, fuel open loop throttle position, this is the throttle position based on RPM that the fuel control will switch from closed loop to open loop. We want it to be an open loop 24/7. Therefore, it's not using the O2s, short terms, long terms. It's not going to use any correction. It's going to run directly off the MAF transfer function, which is what we needed to do, because when we're dialing that in, we want to look at that wideband and know exactly what it's doing right from what we're typing into the MAF transfer function. Not getting any adaptives, doing shit, or any modifiers or any of that. And that's another thing we'll do after this, because there's a couple modifiers you're going to want to check and make sure they're not messing with you when you're trying to dial in the MAF transfer function. So if you have the fuel open loop throttle position, you go and click on the throttle position. Normally this will be like 550 or something, even a little higher. So just set this to 0, force it in the open loop 24/7. And then load for open loop decel. See right here, if the engine is at the RPM in the left column and you are at or below the load in the right column, then fuel control will switch to open loop. So therefore set this to 1. If you're boosted, maybe set it a little higher, but realistically 1 should be fine. Setting that to 1, that just means you would have to hit wide open throttle for it to switch, which we're never even going to get there. We'll set this back to where it needs to be. Open loop delay, make sure you set this entire table to 0 so there's no delay from switching in. Most of the time this is already zeroed out, but sometimes there'll be a little delay. You can click this top right, select all, type 0, change model 0. So now we're in open loop, and the next thing we're going to do is go up to your fuel tab. A lot of people I've seen, you know, like Don Lasoda, I remember going through his manual when I first learned. He says to go through here and just set these all to ones. Personally, I don't like to do that. Most of it's going to be one, but once you're getting up into your fuel range for a boosted setup or even NA, so like for NA, I'd say like right about here, or actually, where did I have that? Yeah, so right about there, 450 throttle position above, that's what I want to be at my wide open throttle fueling target. So I'll set that, because then when we're data logging in live link, we can actually we'll data log our short-term fuel trim, and our short-term fuel trims will follow our base fuel table. So basically at idle part throttle, our short term should be 1.0. And then when you hit throttle enough to 450, you'll watch it switch from 0.85, and then you can use that to know, okay, in the MAF transfer function at that specific voltage or that specific counts, and then up you can add fuel, because you know where wide open throttle's hitting. It just makes it a little easier, if that makes sense. Sorry, I know I'm probably talking a lot, and please, if you guys have any questions, you're not understanding something, leave a comment, and you're also more than welcome to call me anytime, 989-619-8484. Actually, I shouldn't say anytime. I'm open 9 to 7 Monday through Friday. So if you have any questions, just call me, leave a comment. You can even send me an email. I'll have my phone number and email in the description, so just reach out if you have any questions or anything. But set up your base fuel table, mainly ones, and then when you want your wide open, just set your fuel. NA, if it's a naturally aspirated motor, you should not be targeting any more than a 0.82 lambda. By the way, this is lambda. This is not AFR. You can do the conversion if you want, but don't try to get used to AFR, because no ECU in the world tunes using AFR values. You want to get used to lambda. Try to learn lambda. It's easy. 1.0, depending on your stoinch. So if you're running pump gas, I'm not running pump gas. I run E85 in that trunk. So normally pump gas is a stoichiometric ratio of 14.64. And what that means is it takes, per 1 part of air and 1 part of fuel, it takes, or wait, I think I'm explaining that wrong. It takes, for 1 part of air, you have to have that much amount of fuel to be able to get an efficient burn. I think I'm explaining that wrong. Too much in my head right now. But basically, you want, so like, stoichiometric ratio for pump gas 14.64. At idle and part throttle, you want your AFR to be a 14.64. Realistically, you want to be a little lower, but I say about a 14.5 to a 14.7 idle part throttle for a naturally aspirated setup. But you want to be there, because that's where you're getting an efficient burn of all the gas. You got to be at least at a 14, whatever your stoinch is. You got to be at least there to get a full, good, efficient burn. That's a clean burn. It's where you want to be. I'm running E85, so my stoichiometric ratio is set at 9.75. So it's a little different. And then sometimes in here you'll have some multipliers. Don't, like your startup base fuel, make sure this sets up so like once it warms up, this is all ones. Obviously, like when we get out there and start doing the actual dialogue and tuning, we're going to let it warm up, because until it's to 100 degrees, there's going to be modifiers adding fuel. We don't want that. We want to make sure it's warmed up. There's nothing touching fuel. It's running directly off the MAF transfer function. So when we make adjustments, we can see those adjustments live, basically. And if it's a boosted setup and you're doing this first time base tune dialing in, make sure you go to your spark and borderline knock table and just pull out a couple degrees. I mean, I would pull at least 4 to 6 degrees. If you really want to be lazy, you can go to global spark adder and just do like -6, literally, till it's dialed in, until you know fueling's good. Let's not be making boost and pushing spark up there. It's a good way to break some shit. And then the other thing for setting up the MAF, a lot of times in here, just right off the bat, I'm going to teach you guys some logic. You can go to the maximum AD counts. This will always be set to like a weird value, just a little bit lower. Just max it out to 123. And then air meter adaptation, if you have this on yours, turn it off. I always turn that off. And then the MAF temp compensation, select this entire table, zero it out. Zero that bitch out, because we want it to run directly off this. This is our MAF transfer function right here. Now, mine goes by volts. Yours might be by counts if it's a little bit older, but mine's by volts. And you can see you're never gonna touch this voltage column, or the very left column, voltage counts, whatever it is. You're never gonna touch that unless you installed a different MAF sensor. If you have a different MAF sensor from stock, you need to contact that company or go online and get that data for it, and then you put that data in here, because you're just interpolating the voltage range for that sensor from 0 to 5 volts.
Now, when we're actually doing tuning, let's say at idle, let's say, you know, right now I flash this base tune, I go out there and it still won't start. Select this entire table. Mine goes by min, might be kilogram per hour, blah, blah, blah. It could be everything different. It's always the second table though. And go up here and go, I'll personally, if it doesn't even start, right off the bat, probably add 10%, even sometimes 20% if it ain't starting. When you're cranking it, that wideband ain't even showing anything, it's just maxed out at 20, probably add 20%. So to add 20%, it's just it looks confusing because it's multiplication, but you would select the whole table, type in 1.20, because that 20, think of that as like the 20%, and then you're multiplying. So multiplying the table by 1.20, that's adding 20% to the whole table. And or 1.05 would be adding 5%. Let's say you want to remove 5, that'd be 0.95, multiply the whole table, that would remove 5. You want to remove 20, that'd be 0.80, multiply the whole table, that removes 20% of fuel. So that's just a really easy way to do it. And until you have idle dialed in at a 14.5 to 14.7 or whatever you're targeting, you are not just going down here and selecting a couple tables. You are selecting the whole thing every time. Until you get idle dialed into where you want it, you are selecting the entire table. Because this is it's a linear going up. It's never the next value starting from the bottom. The next value can never be smaller than the one before. If it is, then it's really bad. Like, you cannot do that. It always has to be a gradual linear curve, because literally the MAF sensor is just reading the incoming air, the amount of incoming air. So it's a constant linear up of the amount of air coming into the engine. The more air coming in, the more fuel you need to inject. And if you have this dialed in, load will be correct, and then spark will be correct. Everything will be correct. This literally controls everything. It's kind of crazy. Sorry if I sound like a dumbass and I'm just rambling. I mean, I'm not a professional. I'm literally a 20-year-old kid who's been doing this for 2 years. I don't know why I learned this super easily and catch on quick. I love doing this. It's easy to me. And if anyone tells you that this shit's black magic and it's impossible to do, it's really not. You just got to sit down, get your personal vehicle. I mean, the only thing I've tuned over 800 vehicles now, and the only thing I've broke was a flex plate and 2 high mileage torque converters that had over 200,000 miles on them. So it's really hard to break stuff unless you're deliberately touching stuff you probably don't know what you're doing and it's in a dangerous range, and you are an idiot and you messed up, accidentally put a value when it should have. Like, you gotta really fuck up to actually hurt something. Except for transmission tuning. Don't do transmission tuning unless you know what the fuck you're doing. Never heard of trans personally, but take your time, do little steps, get into it, blah, blah, blah. It's not what we're doing today, but if you guys want me to make another video on anything else, just leave a comment and let me know. So yeah, now basically we have our base tune set up. Gave you guys kind of the logic of how we're going to do. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go out there and data log. But just know, so my truck starts right now, it's on E85. But like right now, if your car or truck doesn't start at all, go out there while it's cranking, see what the wideband is. Let's say it's reading like an 18, 19, 17, add 5 to 10%. You want to just you're selecting this whole thing and you're adding a little bit of fuel until you get to your target, which should be like a 14.5 to 14.7. If it's a big old blower motor, yeah, run it a little richer. But other than that, if it starts up and we're just doing part throttle dialing, that's where I'm going to go out there and I'm going to show you guys how to do all that.
Alright guys, so now I'm back in the truck and we are going to need our SCT device. One thing I did forget too is you're going to need an old style Android cable. Should have came with your SCT device. This plugs into the very bottom. And that just goes to USB, and that's what actually plugs into our computer. So from here, you're going to want to open up Live Link. Actually, I'll switch it over to the computer, but I just want to show you guys everything that we need. Make sure, and then from here too, so basically what you would do, either you can do the program device if you have that, or you can export as a custom tune. Export your tune, put it onto your device, and then flash the tune to the truck. Don't start it from there. Once the base tune that we just set up is on your vehicle, just key off, and then I'm going to switch into the laptop and I'll show you what we need to set up for Live Link, getting it ready to data log, and then go from there with little part throttle adjustments and what I do to dial it in before you do any driving at all. There's a little bit more you need to do to dial in the MAF in, and then we'll do some driving. All right, so now we're back in the truck, and we are gonna. So at this point, like I already said, you have the tune on your truck. And at this point, we're going to want to load up Live Link. And
And one thing I did think about, and I forgot to say, and sorry, I didn't really make a script for this or anything. I've never made a tutorial style video, just kind of winging it, going with what I can think of on the spot, I guess. The one thing too is if you have aftermarket injectors, if your injectors are different from what came factory stock in that vehicle, make sure you have the correct injector data in the tune before you even try to touch the MAF. If you don't have the correct injector data, fueling will be all over the place, no matter what. And on a naturally aspirated setup, if you got some big old injectors on it, remember, it doesn't make a difference. You're not getting any power from those. There's no reason to have those. You probably should go back to stock anyways. So, anyways, we're going to open up Live Link, and then from this point, you're going to need your SCT device. You're going to get your SCT device ready, and you're going to click, I want to data log vehicle, maybe. Live Link can be a little glitchy. It can take its time. Just take your time. If it crashes and shit ain't working, the best thing I tell my customers is just to start from the beginning. Close it, restart, turn the truck off, restart from the beginning, start again, and it should work. Shit, right now mine's frozen, which usually doesn't happen, but that's Live Link for you. So we are gonna, maybe I'll cut this out depending on how long it takes. Alright, there we go. So now it says connect your SCT device. So we're gonna get our old style Android to USB. We're gonna plug it in the computer. And then I'm gonna plug that into the SCT device. Just like that. We're gonna let that turn on. So I wait for it to turn on all the way before I click next. Wait till it gets to the home screen with the buttons. Should be getting there. And then now I'll go ahead and I'm gonna set that down, make sure it stays plugged in. Click next. It's gonna say connect to the OBD2 port. So now I'm gonna grab this cable, which is plugged into my OBD2 port. And I'm going to plug this in up top right there. Set that down, make sure everything stays plugged in. I'm going to click next. Before I start it, I'm also going to grab your external analog wire that's hooked to your wideband. Plug this in too. Bingo bongo. Alright, it says start your engine, grab the keys. This is a cold start on a 543 valve Triton that's running E85. That is not even designed to run that fuel, but she starts up good because I know what I'm doing. We're going to start it up. Click next. And then I usually give it a couple seconds, wait like 3 to 5 seconds, and then click check communications. And there you go, it's got everything loaded up. So then click vehicle info. I always, make sure you always do this part. Validate all items. Then click select items. Doing that validate all items, just make sure you're not selecting any bullshit that's actually not for your vehicle or blah blah blah. Just it's only gonna show stuff that's actually for your vehicle that's actually there. And the big thing too is after we go through here, I'm actually not even gonna go through here and select everything, but your first time you're gonna have to go through here and select everything that you want to log. Once you do that, at the top there's that little save config button right here. Make sure you click that and save that, because then you don't gotta ever do that again. And then the big thing is with your wideband, with that analog output analog wire that we plugged into the SCT. So as you'll see right here, there's going to be a red fire wire and an orange fire wire. Depending on which one you wired your wideband into on that little split when you bought it, that's the one you would select. I wired mine into the orange fire wire, so I'm going to select that one. I'm just going to load my config, which already has everything selected, has the orange fire wire for the wideband selected, coolant temp, RPM, vehicle speed, just all the normal stuff. RPM, vehicle speed, you're going to want to grab your short terms. And then the big thing I'll show you once it loads, we're going to need to get the stuff for the MAF. Now, depending on what kind of MAF sensor you have, if it's a little bit older or newer, it's going to be in counts or volts. So we'll need to grab either MAF volts or MAF counts. Actually, for the MAF counts ones, I think it's just MAF. It's just going through here right now, and it's making sure, checking everything what's actually for this truck, the data log, and that we can grab. So that's why I do the validate every time, to just make sure you're not wasting your time selecting shit that ain't even there. Man, it is cold. It says it's 42 out up here in northern Michigan today, but it does not feel like it. I'll tell you that right now. So for me, because I already have a config made and saved, I'm going to click load config, click yes. My truck's config new. So for your wideband, you're going to, right here, you're going to need to select your orange firewire or your red one. Select whatever one you wired it into. If you don't know, select both of them. And then obviously do all your normal stuff: coolant temp, cylinder head temp, engine oil temp, intake air temp, transmission temp. You can do your fuel rail temperature. I mean, anything else you want to see, you can grab it. Open loop flag, that's a good thing. I recommend that open loop flag, because that will tell you if you're in open loop, just to know and make sure you set up your base tune right. I know 100% it's in open loop, so I'm not going to select that, but you can, right there, open loop flag, that'll tell you if it's in open loop or not. Rear O2 fuel trim bank, your short terms, select your short terms, so then we'll know, we'll have those selected and saved for later. And then fuel pump duty cycle, pressure drop, crossing records, you don't need all that. But here, the main stuff that we need is going to be in the MAF. So I like to always select airflow min, load, that's the actual load of the engine, load of the MAF. And then for me, because my MAF sensor is in voltage, I have MAF volt selected right here. Now, if yours is counts, you can do MAF counts or whatever that bar column is, you just got to select that is, because that tells you where you're at in the MAF. You just need to know that. So then from here, we can do configure dialog. And I like, now actually before I forget, the next thing we're going to need to do, depending on what wideband you bought, you'll have to, it should come, all of them in the instructions, it will tell you, and or you can Google it, but you'll need to go to tools, equations, and then if you're using the red or the orange one, you have to put the equation in there to convert that voltage that coming out of the wire to what's actually on your gauge. So you might have to mess with it a couple times, but you want whatever's reading in LiveLink to be the exact same as what's reading on your actual physical wideband gauge. So for me, for some reason it doesn't like to save, but it saves to all the other ones. It's actually this one, because I have my wideband in E85 mode, which is for a stoichiometric ratio of 9.75. So my calculation would be that, and then make sure you do that before you start. But so now if I set this, you can just right click on these, and I like to set these, so I'll set that to my wideband. I'm going to set this to, where is it? MAF volts. I'm going to set this to my short-term fuel trim. Doesn't matter, bank 1 or 2, doesn't matter. And then honestly down here I just like to usually do like a 10. So now we can start this. So now once you get it idling, once you've done the tuning that well shit guys, this is the normal too. Let's see if sometimes you can bypass it, you just gotta, what the shit. Alright, well, welcome to LiveLink guys. Let's see if I can do the little, sometimes you can bypass it. I'll cut this out though and I'll bring it back. Like I said guys, you gotta be patient with LiveLink. It's honestly fucking sucks sometimes. So let's see if it works this time. Maybe. So start your log. Truck's running, you got it idling. So right now it's idling at a 14.5, 14.7, or 85, about a 9. I'd say like a 9.5 or 9.8. So I'm gonna go, oh shit, let me stop this log before I forget. Remember, a lot of times LiveLink won't save that, so you gotta, before you start your log, go in here and set your equation, because LiveLink sucks. And then we can go back to view. I'm gonna set all this up again. Volts, short term. I'll just throw a coolant temp up there. Start to skim. And then every time you stop and start, it's going to ask you if you want to save it. If you click yes, it'll have you save it somewhere, and then it just automatically starts. I don't want to save this, so I'm going to click no. Taking its time. Alright, there we go. So, now we are dialoguing. Now the first thing you want to verify is right there, my analog input 8 orange firewire, or whatever one you're in. Make sure whatever that reading is the exact same as your physical wideband gauge, which mine is. So I have that set up, it's reading the same. That's in Lambda. So right now I know I'm idling about a 9.95 Lambda. Realistically, let's say I wanted to be at like a 1. You could pull, like, I'd multiply it by 0.98, see what that does, go from there. Start small. Don't do big adjustments. Start small. It's better to start small than do big adjustments, that's for sure. So from here, before we even do any driving, the one thing to dial it in even more, and why we're logging, you have everything set up to log, you're going to want to rev it. You're not necessarily rev it, but we're going to hold it at increments. So the first one, we're going to hold it at 1,000 for 10 seconds, as steady as you can. Hold it at 1,500 as steady as you can for 10 seconds. And we're going to go in 500 increments all the way up to 3,500. Or I like to go, depending on your RPM range, I mean, I'd go about halfway or a little before. Make sure you're warmed up, obviously. I'm not really warmed up, but I don't really care because this is already dialed in. I'm just showing you guys. But, so I'm going to rev this up a little bit. I'll hold it at like 1,500. And you can see the MAF volts is up now. So now let's say, looking at orange firewire, if I'm running lean, you know from, so like from point, it's kind of hard to hold, but, so I'll just take a log and I'll stop. So, don't do what I just did. Go through, hold for 10 seconds at all of those, and then stop your log. And then you can, once you stop it, you can turn your truck off. Fuck, I don't think I've revved the truck like that cold in a long time. And then go through your list right here and deselect everything except for the analog wire. Go through here. Actually, I'm going to change coolant temp out for RPM. We're going to need to watch that now. But go through here and unselect everything except for, we want to see our wideband, our coolant, or our output wire. I have a lot of stuff in here. So MAF, you're going to want to see your MAF volts or MAF counts, whatever it is. Going to need to see RPM. And then I'll throw a short term in there just to show you guys. But that should stay at 1 the whole time because we never, actually it might have jumped. Nope, that stayed at 1 the whole time because I never even hit the gas that far enough. Remember, that table's by throttle position. So now from here, how I do this, I'll hit RPM, double click RPM, drag over here because we were idling for a little bit. So blue's our RPM, green is MAF volts. So as you see, RPM went up, you can't see it, double click RPM, and we'll scale it. Alright. So now, so you can see, look at, as my cursor is going through the log, you can see MAF volts going down, up, down. So let's say, you know, because we were idling at like a 0.8 MAF volts. So then I'm holding it at, you know, 1,000, 1,500, and that's at like 0.15, 0.2 and up. Let's say it immediately goes lean. So you would go into your tune, and from, you know, so let's say it was like 0.25 volts and up and went lean, and you only have a 1.28 volts, go to below it. So you go from below it, go all the way up, add fuel until you get to your target. Remember, this is only part throttle. You only want to target the same that you're targeting at idle, even at rev. So a 1.0 Lambo or a 14.5, 14.7 AFR. And you're going to want to do this all the way until that 3,500. And you're just making sure you might get up to the 2 volt, 2.5 volt range doing this. But this is just getting your MAF transfer function dialed in throughout the range before we even drive it. Because then once you do this, put in gear, go on the road, and you're doing the exact same thing. What I like to do, though, is mainly put it in whatever gear you can manually put it in, the highest gear you can manually put it in. Put it in that gear. On my truck, it's second, because then you're kind of gives it a higher load. And you're just going to do the exact same thing that we just did, holding it at the specific RPMs for increments, but doing it on the road, locked in a gear, second or third gear, and then save that log, go through wherever it gets lean or it's too rich, find that voltage range. If it, let's say it, you know, from 2.1 to 2.6, it's super rich, you can just pull a little bit out of there, but just make sure it's always linear, you know, 7.4, 7.9, 9.2, it's always going up. The next one above it always has to be higher. And if you look at the chart, it should never be there should never be like a higher jump and a lower jump. It should always look like a nice smooth curve going up. And that's how you tune your MAF. I know it's a long video. It's kind of, honestly, now I kind of understand why no one's ever made a tutorial video on kind of how to do this, because this is a pain in the ass. That's a pain in the ass. But seriously, guys, if you have any questions or anything, you guys can even email me your tune file, and I'll help you. I'll do it, make the changes, send it back so you can compare and see what all I did. Or I can even send you screenshots of what exactly you need to change. If you need injector data, you can't find it, whatever you guys need, if you need help with anything, just reach out. I'll have my contact information below, and then I'll have all the download links for everything, and I'll have the link to purchase the analog output wire for your wideband if you don't have that too. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you guys like this video. If you guys need a tune, contact me. If you guys want me to keep making videos like this, make another video explaining some stuff, some more in-depth tuning or whatever, just leave a comment, let me know. I know this was highly requested. Thank you, Grant. Grant, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you're able to tune that freaking, I can't think of what it is. It's got that intake swap, though. It reminds me of my truck. I think it's cool shit. But seriously, guys, thank you. And if you have any questions or anything, just reach out.